Hey, feel I'm in the mood for a switch up. I hit the function, hit the rose till I hiccup. I hit the stage and leave with money that say stick up. She picture perfect, so I told him I'm a flick up. Feel I'm in the mood for a change up. I leave the city and return with my change up. They got amnesia, don't remember how they played us. They wanna knock me down, but somehow I
All right.
So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But, man, and then since, we're a little behind, but we're still going to go with what a trade deadline.
Yeah, man, I was super stoked seeing all these names thrown out there.
I was like, okay, let me watch this MLB network. I had it on my phone on the way home, and it was just like the rumors were just buzzing. They were having a great time. Like, Twitter was going off. You couldn't keep up with these names. It's, I think, was the best and most active trade deadline ever. That's what it feels like. And of course, after the 4 p.m. deadline, then finally the trades are coming out. We'll say the BC level trades that got in like just at the nick of time.
Yeah, but one of the trades that actually sticks out to me though is the Giants picking up Chris Bryant.
Yeah, which was one of the last ones that finally broke.
Yeah,
we thought Bryant was to be one of the first ones to get traded from Chicago because everyone's like, most likely Craig Kimbrell and Bryant are guaranteed. Baez and Rizzo, they kind of might hold on to them.
Yeah,
but Rizzo was the first one left, and then you got Kimbrell, then you got Baez, and then finally Bryant.
Well, so yeah, and like I said, with the Bryant situation, what makes it special to me is that the Giants are currently in first place in their division.
Well, all the trades are happening around them in that division.
Exactly,
like, you guys have to do something,
right? And they did something. you finally have somebody on their team that you can like relate.
And it makes sense for Giants too, because after. When they were talking about the Mets and how he is versatile, that where he can play everywhere, another team came to light was Giants. That's a veteran where can play places everywhere. It's kind of their mentality.
And can actually help the team. And what's good for them is that they've held this lead, and now Mike Yaz is back now. Yep. So who can tell? I mean, yes, the other teams in the division are crazy good, but they're still holding their own.
As of right now, as Friday, the 6th?
Yep.
They have a 4-game lead.
That's right, a 4-game lead.
It's insane
on the Dodgers.
Yeah,
and we'll get to the Dodgers. Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's think into the Dodgers.
This next trade we're talking about Dodgers.
This trade was sick. This is like the first one that happened, right?
They made like some little trades. I remember
this is the first one that made me
go.
But
this was the big one, which were like because first earlier in the day, Max Scherzer's like Padres are almost done. Of course, there's a little more deal to this because Scherzer has the 10-5 rule where he's been in the league for 10 years, 5 with the current team, so he can veto whatever. So it's kind of like, does he got to go through this? Then it's like, oh, wait, Dodgers are making a push. Other teams are making a push. Like, they're probably calling, like, what did they give you? We'll give you more. Then next, when you heard, like, oh, Scherzer's going to the Dodgers with Trey Turner, I'm like, excuse me?
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you guys don't know on the West Coast, let me tell you, Trey Turner is one of the best middle infielders, in my opinion, in the game. So that's big.
Yeah,
that's
was
huge.
And I'm like, okay, what's the haul? Because you're getting Scherzer for a rental, and you get Trey for the rest of this year and next year. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, what is the haul? And it's their top 2 prospects and 2 middle end prospects.
Yeah, because obviously the Dodgers are thinking we're still here now. We're going to go back and win again. Because if you think about it, what they did preseason when they picked up the pitcher, Bauer. When they picked up Bauer, I was like, this is crazy. They're already a great team, and now they got him. Well, now they got Scherzer and Turner, which are arguably 2 of the best players on the Nats team. Their team is super stoked. It's like the Yankees, man.
Yeah, so, of course, they had prospects they can give up, which they gave up Kelbert Ruiz, which is their top prospect, which is a catcher, which Nationals needed, so that worked. And then Joshua Gray, which is their second prospect, which is a pitcher, which that almost replaced because he's had – I think they just called him up recently, so he had a couple starts, so he will replace Scherzer on the roster for the Nationals. And then you get 2 middle prospects to kind of fill in your roster, and you need a catcher, you got your pitcher, so it's like it's a win-win. And then I think they tried to negotiate with Turner, and then it was like not working. The negotiations wasn't working well, so you send them out. And then it makes sense for the Dodgers for Turner because he's a insurance, because if Seager does walk, it's in contract year, you have at least a shortstop for 1 more year. And you could sign him. You couldn't see what he wants and might be willing to deal.
Yeah, and like you said, with Turner on their team, I mean, he'll most likely play second base, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But he can also play the outfield. He can play center field. And that gives them an opportunity to put Chris Taylor, the local boy here, anywhere else.
It's Dave Roberts, I think, has the easiest job when it comes to the lineup card. Like who's playing when, who's on the mound. Unfortunately, he lost most likely Clayton Kershaw to they think September now. So glad you got Max now because it's like okay, but we still have a pitching problem. But apparently they're in negotiations. They're close to signing Cole Hamels because he's been a free agent.
Yeah.
So if he comes back healthy for a playoff push.
Right, but also like you said, I mean, the Nationals, they didn't just give up the team; they got pretty good players in return.
They got two guys they could really need.
Right, they weren't expected to win the World Series the year they did, and then they lost some players last year. So this year they're like, look, we're in a position where we're not going to be competitive. We have the guys to get rid of so we can build a team to be better next season. And that's what they're doing. So I think it was a win-win for both teams.
Yeah, and then Dodgers got Daniel Duffy from the Royals to be a player to name later.
Okay.
So it's like, okay, there's a veteran arm that you need. And that's when you start hearing about Scherzer going to the Padres. And then I wonder, like, look, let's just call the Nationals, see what we can do. And then Turner, they said everyone was available but Soto, so I was real surprised when they said Turner was available.
Right. I mean, in my opinion, if I was the Nationals owners or whatever, I'm thinking to myself, Turner's off limits too because he is so good and young.
Yeah.
But, hey, who knows? The guys they got in return, they could make a big push later.
Yeah, all the people they trade for, Kyle Schwarber was a one-year deal, so they got rid of him, got a prospect. Lesnar was a one-year deal. They got a prospect for, so... I think Josh Harrison was another one they traded to get prospects. So ultimately, between Cubs and Nationals, they dropped out because they knew they weren't going to win this year. But honestly, Nationals are probably not that far behind rebuilding from what they got.
They're not. You're right, and that's why they probably felt confident in this move because, like you said, Soto's still there. They got people to build around. They still have veteran guys on the lineup like Zimmerman. I think they're in a good position. Yeah, I like it.
They're going to still compete. You're going to see what these young kids got this year for the rest of the way, and then you make your call to add some pieces in the offseason.
All right, well, speaking of
Cubs.
The Cubs.
Man, okay, so like we said, Rizzo went to which I think was shocking going to the Yankees.
Okay.
I'm like, wow, they trade Rizzo. I thought he'd be the one they'd keep. Baez, he was willing to take a pay cut to stay with. But then when you heard the information about, I'm willing to play second base to play with Lindor, that's kind of telling me, he's willing, trying to throw, hey, Mets, come get me.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm like, okay, so is Rizzo going to be the guy that they're going to build around? I'm like, but he's a little older. I'm wondering. Yeah. And then it came out, you're on to the Yankees for some prospects.
Yes, the Yankees, we know what they do. They were expected to run away with this year, and they have not.
No, they need some left-handed bats.
So it makes sense that they pick up Rizzo. Because they, like you said, they absolutely need it, but they didn't stop there. They got another big one.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, Gallo.
Yes, Joey Gallo to the Yankees.
They already four prospects.
That's what I'm saying. So, what do pitchers do when they face Yankees now?
Yeah,
you got Judge, you got Giancarlo, you got Joey Gallo. You just everybody there is a freaking smasher, dude.
Yeah, it's man, But the one thing that I don't think they did, which I know they needed to do, was pitching. Once, some of these pitchers started going, I'm like, I don't think Yankees can get one of these guys that's left. Mm-hmm. Or, who's willing to pay. They don't have the prospects that probably want to give up to get a pitcher.
I wonder if they were in on anything with, Scherzer related.
Scherzer said he did not want to go.
Okay.
He refused.
Because the reason I'm saying that is because the Yankees know if they do make it to the show, they're going to be most likely up against a Dodgers team that's stacked.
Yeah.
And you don't want to throw Scherzer in the mix there.
Yeah, apparently
nobody wants to face that team, actually.
Nix that real quick. The most weirdest thing is seeing Joey Gallo clean shaved. When someone put the meme up and said, this looks like a jail picture because Gallo, Joey's always had that beard since we've known him. It's I'm like, that's one thing I hate about the Yankees, which some players refuse to go there because of the beard rule. You have to be clean shaved. They don't believe in that, but it's just so weird seeing him with a smiley face. And, of course, the funniest thing is, back to Cubs, is Baez going to the Mets. So all three of the big three, Rizzo, Baez, and Chris Bryant, all homered in their debut for the other teams. I'm like, that is hilarious.
Yeah. Like you said, as Lindor for the Mets kind of struggled in his beginnings, Baez has come out hot, and he's been making big plays.
Until last night.
Well, yeah, but, for the most part.
Sombrero last night.
For the most part, though.
But the most interesting thing with Baez is when Lindor gets back here, and hopefully in about 2 weeks or so, is what that middle infield is going to be covered. Because you're thinking, even hell, they start talking about Baez might be playing third because McNeil is better at second than third base defensively.
And I would agree.
So who knows? But still, that's a stacked corner, no matter middle infield or the opposite field.
Well, and the bats.
Yeah.
All three of those guys. Like I said, McNeil's starting to do his thing again. He's getting his average back
he
up.
had a great July.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I didn't really know other shock besides, Craig Kimbrell staying in Chicago, but going to the other side. I'm like, well, White Sox have just added the best bullpen possible now. Already had Liam Hendricks. Now you add,
like
Craig Kimbrell. I'm like,
Kimbrell with a .49 ERA.
wow.
And Kimbrell's got a 15.7 K to 9 ratio and 23 saves, and Hendricks has got a 2.58 ERA with 14.1 to 9 and 25 saves. So yes, solid. White Sox need that, and that's great. Anybody could use that.
Yeah.
That is a pretty good one.
And then the other two kind of trades of Toronto get Brad Hand, so they got their closer from Nationals,
and the Blue Jays also got Jose Barrios.
Yes, which that's the one I kind of want to talk last. We can talk a little about.
Okay.
The rumor was that Mets did contacted Twins about him, and the asking price was ridiculous.
I'm sure.
Apparently, they wanted McNeil and prospects. I'm like, for a guy who's having like a 3 almost a 4 ERA this year, I understand the control,
right? But McNeil is such a high average hitter every year. He's a huge asset. I wouldn't want to give him up with prospects.
So what they gave up is right-handed pitcher Simon Woods Richardson. I'm like, okay, but then they gave up Austin Martin, which was still the draft last year when he fell to 4 to Toronto, which works out perfect because they have a stacked infield. We're all wondering where Austin's going to play, and they've been playing him in the outfield in the minor leagues because they figure that's where he's going to have to go.
Yeah.
So now Minnesota has Austin Martin, which could be your infield. Hell, people said he is so fast and good that he could actually play center field. That's why some people were wondering if they're about to trade Byron Buxton because their contracts are nowhere close.
Okay.
But it didn't happen. Buxton's still a Twin for now. But I wonder if, the rest of the way Twins evaluate Austin Martin, do we trade Buxton now in the offseason to get more prospects instead of it before the trade deadline?
Okay. And, I like this, though, by the Blue Jays.
Yeah,
because
they needed one more pitcher.
The reason I like this is because they're not just they're not a team just going to roll over and die when everybody else is making big moves. They're like, hey, we're still here. Yeah, we're in the game.
They're still in third place. They're still trying.
And the best thing about this is that they still have control of Jose Barrios through 2022.
Yeah.
So that's amazing for them as well. So, yeah, I expect the Blue Jays to stay in contention with whatever way they can because it's hard to compete with the Yankees, money and everybody else in that league or that division. But, yeah, it was a good pickup.
Yeah, definitely. I really liked it. I was like, okay, out of all teams to get him, I like the Blue Jays going for it. Like I said, currently, yes, they're only 6.5 back in fourth place, but from second place, they're only 5 games out with a month and a half to go. So it's gonna be interesting to watch that division. So, but yeah, so I guess the next question for us is our favorite trades. And I gotta say, I think it's the Max Scherzer and Trey Turner going to the Dodgers.
That was absolutely my favorite trade. Once I saw Max Scherzer, like, oh, cool, he's going to the Dodgers. And I saw with Trey Turner.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it, man. To the Dodgers,
and it worked out. I'm like, who are they getting? And then they're sending their top 2 prospects to Washington.
This is like playing a video game. This is like you have a solid, you have a solid team,
league.
Yes, and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm just going to steal the 2 best players over here, or one of the 2 best players over here, and put them on my team just because. Man, that's my favorite trade by far.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I'm a Mets fan. I like Baez coming to this. That's awesome, but the shock factor of Scherzer and Trey Turner.
Yeah, we knew Scherzer was going. Like, you're like, okay, now where is he going to go? But the share that Turner was involved to get, of course, it had to be to get those 2 prospects because you ain't trading top 2 prospects for a rental for Max Scherzer. For
especially
2 months.
Especially since Max Scherzer's kind of the Max Scherzer of old.
Yeah, he's slightly declining a little.
You got an upside because Trey Turner's in his prime and he's not stopping.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that. That's my favorite trade by far.
Yeah, and other than that, White Sox, like I said, adding Kimbrel,
oh yeah.
So you're talking about your guys are gonna have to go 7 innings, if that, 6, come playoffs, and then you got Liam and
I also like what the Yankees did because they have to.
Yeah.
So
I'll give them a B because they didn't add pitching.
Yeah. Well, yes, I agree.
Extent.
Right. For grading this, for sure.
Yeah.
I like the Mets trade, obviously.
Yeah. I love Baez, but I think
the Dodgers, you can't just not.
Baez would be better once Lindor gets back. I want to see them together because them chemistry just being. Lindor being in the dugout watching his friend play, I can imagine what they're going to be like on the field, especially turning double plays. But
the only thing we're missing is DeGrom healthy and Syndergaard back. And
I was like, that's what I said. It's like a highlight. It's like, okay, look, we got Baez. We're all like, yes, we got another All-Star. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, DeGrom will be out for a couple more weeks.
Yes, well, if people just
I'm like
If people just look back on these years with the Mets and just look at the teams, not looking at like any footage or anything, just looking on paper, like these guys were on this team and they didn't do this. What? It's because it's injuries every year.
Yeah,
I feel like
it's unfortunate. I'm like,
on paper, I'm loving it
because I was like, okay, he's gonna throw, maybe make one rehab, and he should be back. And they're like, well, nope, he felt something. Like
exactly.
Don't say that to me. But it sucks. But man, right. It's interesting.
Yeah, we'll definitely see how these trades pan out.
Yeah, like so far, Scherzer had his one start. He had 10 strikeouts. Did well. Of course, Baez is hitting 2 home runs. Like I said, I think Brazil's up to 2 or 3 home runs for the Yankees.
Yep.
Gallo just hit his first and had a curtain call last night in Yankee Stadium. So
all right,
so far so good with Solid. And then, but like the B level, we're like, okay, like we didn't understand. Like I think the one that I definitely didn't understand was Seattle making an early trade after they did a walk-off grand slam. Like, okay, you're actually going to try, and then didn't do nothing else. And the other thing I was very shocked on was Trevor Story not being traded. I'm like, you're telling me you'd rather just hold on to this guy and get a draft compensation for him because he's not re-signing with y'all. You can try.
Right.
He is not. He's seen where this franchise is going. It's full rebuild mode. And not even trading John Gray, too. I thought they were going to be like a package deal, like kind of what the Mets did with Baez with the pitcher they got. Mm-hmm. I thought it would be John Gray and Trevor Story going somewhere, which I figured Yankees would make sense. You get a pitcher and you get Trevor Story, which you kind of talked about. But unfortunately, it didn't work out. And he's still in Colorado for the next 2 months until he's going to chuck the deuces come September.